Hi, I'm Lani Hines, and welcome back to my second episode of Inside the Seams. Today I have my guest, Coach Jenna King, and she is the head varsity coach of girls soccer, and you can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jenna King. I've been at Marquette 10 years, and this will be my second season as the girls head coach.
So that's kind of what I wanted to bring up, was last season was your first season of being like head coach or even like coaching the girls soccer. And last season was a great season. But before we get into that, I want to bring up how you came to the journey of being like the head like soccer coach. Like what made you decide you wanted to take this position?
So soccer has always been a part of my life. I played in college and then coached other sports at Marquette, field hockey and girls lacrosse before a soccer opening was available. And there ended up being an opening, so I was the kind of an assistant for the girls soccer program for 3 years. And then Coach Kenny retired and that head coaching position came available. And it just seemed like a good fit. It's what I wanted to do. I coach my kids' youth soccer teams. I've always coached at some level in soccer. So taking that next step and just taking the head girls job, I thought it was a good fit and a good opportunity.
So like when you're new, like you were new to the team, the second year, first year, like you're like, this has been like, you have stuck with soccer like your whole life. So you know what you're doing, but you come to a new team, you know what you're doing, but you don't know the players. So how did you kind of build that dynamic of having all these different skill levels, but coming in, being new and having to like figure out, navigate your way around that?
Yeah, it was definitely helpful being a part of the program for a couple years before I took the head coaching job, just so I got to know the girls. And behind the scenes of being a head coach, there's a lot of nuts and bolts that you really don't see being an assistant. So just kind of navigating that. Seniors were great that they kind of stepped up and helped with like the leadership role and getting things going, and having coached them all the way from them being a freshman and then having my first year head coach with them being seniors. So I had been with them all the way through, and they kind of just were like, they were excited for me, which was cool to see. And so they were, it was just a great overall season. But yeah, kind of being new to all the nuts and bolts that are behind the scenes, and then just kind of taking charge and having that leadership role. It was challenging, but I like challenges, and so it turned out to be a great, successful year for us.
So that like kind of leads me on to the mental aspect of it, though, where you say like it's challenging, like it was like coming into all of this. It's like, how do you get over like the mental aspects of coaching, or how did you like come in and like you had to like live up to a standard of what was left behind? Like what was the mental like part behind that?
Right. It was definitely, Coach Kenny was a great coach. Definitely big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill. So it was definitely, something that was always in the back of my mind. But I'm an extremely hard worker, and I trusted the girls. I trusted my team, and we had a good foundation, like I said, from me being there for a couple of years. So taking on that leadership role, it was a little bit scary, because I'm like, man, I'm living up to Coach Kenny. He's a legend, you know? But I think the girls fully embraced it, and just their overall mindset and positive attitude towards it really helped kind of the outcome and put me at ease and let me do what I needed to do from a coaching standpoint so they could do their best on the field.
And then, so this kind of backtracks to where you were like, you've seen all those seniors grow up. So I'm kind of jumping back to that because I was thinking about it. So whenever you're like, a ton of seniors graduated, those seniors were good. What do you feel like? Do you kind of feel uneasy whenever seniors graduate? Because like from a coach perspective, it's like those seniors might have been great and then they're leaving. And do you ever feel like, oh, like they're leaving, what am I going to do next season? Or how does that like come to be in your mind?
Yeah, good question. I don't really feel uneasy about it. I'm just super proud of them. Like it's a cool experience getting to watch these girls that I've, coached from freshman year on, and just see that development and growth. And you're just super proud of them, especially when they decide to continue that process and play at the next level in college or whatever it may be, and they always want to come back and visit. That just shows that they miss the team, they miss the game, they miss the program. So it's not really a sense of oh no, what are we going to do? It's like, man, I'm so proud of them. And like, what's next? You know, what's going to come next for us? So
is that like kind of like the sportsmanship aspect whenever you're like, yeah, I'm going to like miss like having their like presence on the team? Is that something you really look for? Was like their sportsmanship included into that? Like whenever you're creating a roster, do you go on like sportsmanship and talent, or like is it one over the other, or what does that look like building a roster?
As far as building a roster, you always want kids to have a good work ethic and integrity and get along well with their teammates. So honestly, if there's pretty even skill levels and, you know, there's players that cause a lot of drama, I mean, that's hard to make that decision if you want that to carry over into your season. Like we've been lucky and haven't had hardly any issues with that. But when building a roster, you definitely want players to commit. You want them to be present. You want them to work hard, have integrity, and get along with their team, because the better they connect off the field, that's going to carry on to the field and their time that they spend on the field together.
Yeah, and like with like the building the roster, obviously last season you had built a pretty great one because you guys had went 16-4 in your regular season, and then you were conference champions. But once you had reached districts, you came second to Lafayette, which you guys had beat Lafayette in the regular season.
Right.
So I kind of want to know what is going to look different this year that you're heading into this new season to make you district champions.
I think that's our ultimate goal. We feel like it's unfinished business, right? So we're gonna come out hard and strong. And
was there anything in like the game last season that like kind of set off why you weren't like champions? Was it like you should have made this play instead of doing this, or was it kind of just like was it just like a given, like maybe we wouldn't have won that game?
Right. So we beat Lafayette earlier in the season, and so we knew we could do it again. But I think the nerves started coming in. First half, we definitely didn't perform and come out strong at the first whistle. So I think the nerves were kind of on everybody's mind, and like they knew what the weight of the game meant. And so that definitely plays a part into kind of the first half, how we played. Second half, I definitely think we had a better half, and we had a lot of scoring opportunities. And, you know, it was a 1-0 game. So like, that's the beauty of soccer. It's just like one goal that's all you need. So Lafayette was able to get that goal in the first half, and, you know, second half we played very strong. We played very hard. It just wasn't in the cards this time for us. So.
And then whenever you go up and like with those competitors, obviously Eureka's a strong competitor, Lafayette is a strong competitor. So what do you tell your players before they go out on the field to kind of like calm those nerves?
We really hadn't had a nerve issue until that district final.
Yeah.
But, you know, I remember at the beginning of the Lafayette game, I kind of mentioned to them, because you could tell the nerves were present, and it's just like, hey guys, like this is another soccer game, you know, the sun's going to set, it's going to go down, and tomorrow it's going to rise again, and you're still going to be soccer players. So just go out and do what you know how to do, play your game, and, you know, the result will be what it will be. All you can do is go and work hard, and then try to persevere through anything that may come your way during the game.
And then obviously last season, like what you do to prepare obviously shows how you perform. And they performed very well last season. So I want to know what you do in the preseason to get your players ready.
Right now during preseason, we're just doing kind of open fields and conditioning. And then, you know, in a couple short weeks, we have tryouts, and then it's kind of a whirlwind for 2 weeks until our first game. So we only really have kind of 2 weeks to prepare for our first game. So it's just a lot of like very basic drills, getting to know your team, because they're coming, a lot of them, straight out of their club season with a different group of girls and a different team and a different coach. So kind of it's a whirlwind for the first 2 weeks, trying to just everybody to get acclimated, back on the same page and used to playing together again, and just kind of back to the basics. So they all know each other, they just haven't played together in a long time.
Yeah, so they can build that team dynamic. Because
Right.
as I can see, like lacrosse, like I play lacrosse, like last season, at the beginning it's always kind of your game's a little bit iffy because you guys aren't close. Like, you, like, know each other, but you're not, like, connected. But then always by the end of the season, like, you know, like, that player's going to be right there. I can give them the ball, and, like, everything's, like, great in the end of that.
Exactly.
So kind of going back to it's reaching tryout time for, like, freshmen out there or, like, incoming freshmen who want to play next semester, what is, like, kind of, like, view of what tryouts looks like?
Tryouts is pretty intense. I mean, the first day, all coaches want to get an eye on every player. So we typically do stations, and like they're pretty challenging. It's kind of just like we don't have time to lose. Once it's that first day of tryouts, like we got to hit the ground running because we don't have a lot of time. So we encourage all freshmen to come out. I love that we have had a big freshman group come out for tryouts last year and this year. So we were able to have a freshman team, which wasn't something we had the year prior just because of numbers were down because of COVID and all that. So any freshman that wants to come out and has experience, like we're always looking to build players up, make them feel included, and have some fun and play some soccer.
And then it's also kind of just like whenever you're like, oh, like there's like new ideas, like whenever you bring in like new soccer ideas that like maybe Coach Kenny didn't have before, like you brought in something new. How did you like incorporate that in to like make the team feel like accommodated with it? Like, oh, this will help us out. Like sometimes bringing new ideas to the teams throws players off and they're like, this is not how I did it. But how did you incorporate those ideas?
So wasn't trying to like reinvent the wheel. A lot of things that Coach Kenny did were very spot on and great, but just kind of modified them a little bit to what I thought it could be. So instead of having something super structured, make it a little more fluid, that's more game realistic. So like just skills and drills. There was some new things that were incorporated that took us a little bit to catch on to because it was just new things that they had never done before. But there are a lot of great drills and skills that he did that I just kind of modified and adjusted. So a combination of both those things. So like stuff they already knew, modifying, adjusted it, and then incorporating some new things.
So do you see the improvement there? Like keeping the same ideas but kind of adding on something new? Do you think that's helped? That's something you would do again this season? Or like, do you have something completely new of how you're going to coach this season?
So not completely new, but there's definitely things that you always tweak and adjust each season, even each week, like based on the needs of the team. Like, oh, we really need to work on this, then I might try to find a new drill that I think is best suited for that. Or if we really need to work on this one drill or revisit it to carry over into the game, we'll revisit it. So it's just, everything is pretty fluid as far as like what we feel like we need to modify and adjust based on, the game outcome. So a little bit of both to answer your question. Sometimes we incorporate new things or modify and adjust, but yeah, definitely like re-hitting some of the things we've already worked on kind of helps cement what we're trying to get across in games.
And then that kind of leads me on to like my next question, which kind of ties like everything back together, which a huge part of a sport is sportsmanship. So when you're talking about like kind of bringing on that idea, I want to know, how do you balance so once the like player learns that new like technique that you're working on, that you're like, let's do drills for this, we're going to work on that. Then the player like practices it, becomes good at it, and then they become really competitive, and maybe they're better at that skill other than like a different player. So then it's kind of like, how do you balance competitiveness and sportsmanship? Because it's like, if someone knows how to do a skill better than someone else, they might be like, ugh, like pick up the skill, like they're being competitive about it. They want to beat everyone over it, and they know they're better. So I want to know, as a coach, how do you balance the sportsmanship and competitiveness on the field?
I think we're really blessed. We have a great group of girls, and they're very supportive of each other. So if I see them give each other tips or stuff to like help them complete that skill. And I think from a coaching standpoint, we also have like the growth mindset, like you might not have it yet, but you're going to get there type thing. Yeah. So just having that support for those players and giving them that positive mindset that like, maybe I can't do it yet or do it as effectively yet, but I'm going to get there. And I think the girls kind of follow suit. So having that attitude as a coach, it kind of lets the girls relax and be like, okay, like she's going to get there, we're going to get this, I can help her, instead of like, ooh, I'm better than her, and judging that player.
Yeah.
So just having a different culture and mindset around improvement and growth, I think, is important.
I like how that's like a big like factor on your team, because what I've noticed in a pattern of what you've been saying, like the girls on your team aren't like that. And I feel like that's a good quality, good trait to have for your sport, or else it makes the sport not fun. People aren't going to want to come back if they're not having fun on the team.
Right.
So kind of just like get to, after talking about this season, the player development and everything, I want to know, you can't see the future, but what do you have in mind of what this season's going to look like? Like, do you see wins? Do you see losses? What's in?
I hope we have a lot of wins. Like, that's the goal, but it's not the ultimate goal, but I mean, I would anticipate we're going to have a strong season. We have about 10 seniors returning, so I think they're all hungry. Players? We have a couple of committed seniors that are playing at the next level, so it's exciting, and it's like the seniors, I think, are hungry, and they're wanting this. It's their senior season, and they want it to be a strong one. And so, you know, if I had to guess, I'm hoping, and, you know, I'm thinking that this will be a strong season for us.
I'm excited to see how the season turns out.
Me too.
Do you have anything else you want to say before we kind of close it all together?
Just come on out and watch us. Have some fun.
Support girls soccer.
Support girls soccer.
All through spring. All right. Well, thank you for joining my podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Hope you enjoyed.
All right.
Thank you guys for watching.